Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, Say What's Real TV. This review is for Tyler Perry's Sistas, Season 5, Episode 10, Discretion is Key. So we pick up where we left off last week. We have Andy, she's outside the door talking to the prosecutor. So Danny is in there talking to Sabrina. Sabrina's, crying upset and, she's begging them to get her out. And Danny's trying to reassure her that they're going to do everything they can to get her out. They're back and forth with that, the how. And she's telling her that Maurice had an informant. There was an informant involved that taped Maurice with that whole thing. And basically, she's going to try to get Andy to see if they can get in there to talk to Maurice. Nobody's talked to Maurice just yet. She told her also about Logan and that Logan was involved with that and he won't believe anything that Danny has to say about the situation. So then Danny asked Sabrina, do you want me to call your mom? So this is like the second time they brought her mom up. So I'm wondering if Sabrina's mom going to come into play sometime soon. Sabrina was like, no, don't call her. She has heart problems and diabetes and all of that. Danny also lets her know that Calvin is willing to put up 20 grand towards her bail, which we know she's not getting bail. But hey, that encouraged her a little bit to know that, he was willing to do that for her. And you could see her eyes light up a little bit, just a teeny bit. But, it is what it is. So here comes Danny barging in the door like, we gotta go. Come on, Danny, we gotta go. And Danny's still trying to talk like, Andy like, girl, let's go. She tells, Andy looks at Sabrina and tells her, we're going to get you out of here. We're going to try everything, our hardest to get you out. And then here comes the officers that escort Sabrina back to her cell as everyone else is leaving. So we head over there to Karen's house and we see Aaron. He finally came back with the pasta and he done cooked up the little meal for them to eat. And Karen was happy with it. She said, well, I didn't know you know how to cook with all that takeout you be getting. So she gave him his little phone back and he's sitting up there smirking and acting all smug. And I don't know what, Aaron acted like he was a little high this episode. He was just smirking the whole episode. They go through all this back and forth about how he's patient and why he's so patient. He like, cause I love you and all of this and that. And okay, child. So he was like, well, when are your girls coming? And she was like, oh, they're on their way. So he was like, well, I'll go ahead and take care of the dishes and probably go ahead and go to the gym or go play basketball or something. So Karen busts out and say, do you still play ball with Zach? And my first question would have been like, why you ask me that? Aaron didn't ask that. So Aaron says, are you okay with all of this? Karen didn't answer that. I don't know what all of this was, but Karen says, oh, I got a doctor's appointment to go get the ultrasound done. Like, excuse me, like, what the hell does that have to do with him going to play ball with Zach? Like, I'm confused. Like, what are we even talking about? So she go through the whole spiel about what they're going to do about the conception part. And he was like, oh, all just for you to find out that that's my baby. Oh, still smirking. Got this smirk on his face talking like he high as hell or something. I don't know what was up with Aaron. And she was like, whoa, hold your horses or whatever. So she asked him, she said, well, what are you going to do if it's not your baby? And he was like, I'm not going anywhere. But he's told her that already. And she was like, well, I don't know any man that's willing to love another man's child or whatever under these circumstances. And he was like, well, I've done it before. And he said he basically don't care no matter what the circumstances. So he got up to clear the table and told her she better answer her phone because her mom just texted him and she's getting ready to call her. And, Mama Lisa got to check in. Aaron think he in there just because he down with Mama Lisa, not child. So Danny and Andy, they leave the jail. And Danny asked Andy about trying to get in to see Maurice. And she was like, she'll see what she can do. So they go to talking about the prosecutor and why he's acting the way he's acting because of the divorce that Andy won the case for his ex-wife or whatever. And then so Danny was like, well, can you call Robin? And Andy was like, well, it's complicated right now. She was like, well, you need to do, Danny said, you need to do what you got to do. If you got to hunch him, do whatever. This about Sabrina. This not about you. Like, Andy is like, it's just complicated right now. They just really swear that Andy could just snap her fingers and get this girl out of jail with the twitch of her nose or something, like she is bewitched. I mean, the girl is trying. She's trying. So Danny was like, we need to make a stop. I need to go see the weed man. Andy was like, I'm not going to no weed facility. Danny said, oh, no, hell, you didn't say a weed facility, girl, just because you ride in a Rolls Royce. Like, girl, don't be trying to act all bougie and all that like you don't smoke weed. And Danny was like, well, I've done it occasionally, but I get it from you. Child, Danny looking at her like she crazy. She ended up taking her little gummies and told her she'll take one for her. And Andy said, no, thank you. Danny was like, I said I'll take one for you. I find it strange how Danny got off from work, went with Andy to go see Sabrina. Now they worrying about some weed, but not one time has she mentioned that Jonah actually showed up to her job. The Jonah that they said had to be stopped. But you didn't mention that he showed up to your job. I mean, did you feel a certain kind of way about it? I mean, is it not a discussion? Like, it was like the whole incident never even happened. Like, I mean, was it not traumatic? So we head over there to Zach and Fatima's, and Zach is coming home. Fatima's like, I've been trying to call you, and he was like, I text you back. She looked at her phone, and she was like, oh, I didn't hear it vibrate. So he tells her that he was out with Bryce. They were out looking for a house. Bryce is actually Jake from Sistas, really, kind of, sort of, but not really. But anyway, so he sits down, and she's like, I need to talk to you about something. And he's like, I really don't want to talk about Karen right now. And she was like, it's not about Karen. It's your other baby mama. And he was like, I really don't want to talk about that. So she brings up the DNA test results being positive, and all of a sudden, Zach, he starts getting in his feelings about having all these kids running around and don't want people looking at him like he just this broke joke with a bunch of kids. And Fatima tells him, look, it happens. You had sex, and you're not a broke joke. So Zach, he grabs her hand and asks her how she's so understanding and all of that. And I guess because he probably know he wouldn't be able to do it. She's like, I'm not really all that cool with it, but if I was in their shoes, meaning Karen or Heather, she would want him in her child's life. And she's like, well, with that being said, you're probably going to get hit with some legal trouble or whatever, because I talked to somebody and she said with all this money and the house you have that you might get hit hard. And Zach was like, I thought about that. So she was like, and, I know we're engaged or whatever, but we might need to talk about this marriage thing. And Zach, like, talk about it for what? Like, what's the deal? She was like, well, in the state of Georgia, your debt becomes my debt once we're married. And Zach was like, you the one with the student loan. She was like, that's almost paid off. And he was like, so what you saying? Like, what's up? And I don't know what the whole big dramatic reveal was, because it seemed to me like she could have led with that even when he first sat down to talk. She tells him that Heather went to the office to see Hayden so she could sue him for the child support. And, he went all like, oh, Lord. Like, Zach was like, this dude just won't quit. Like, he just won't stop. And Fatima's like, I'm trying to spare his ass. And Zach is like, why you keep trying to spare him? What, by not telling your cousin? And she was like, yes. So Zach said, well, who is this girl? And I was like, please do not mention that Deja told you about Madam, please. So Fatima was like, don't worry about all that. Just know that she probably getting ready to sue you. All you need to do is try to have all your ducks lined up in a row, because, we don't need all that extra shit going on, because, Hayden probably going to go for everything. So Zach tells her thank you, and not just for the information, for everything, dealing with all of that, dealing with him being an ex-con, him not being able to take her on vacations because he doesn't have a passport, dealing with all his baby mama drama. And she was like, look, you got me. I'm riding with you. I said, yes, girl, ride with your man, girl. So Zach tells Fatima how amazing she is and how she just doesn't know. And he said he wished she had some kind of drama. Fatima said, "You don't want this kind of drama. You don't want Fatima drama." And, basically let him know this is not what you want, player. So, them two with their little playful banter, they laugh it off. And Zach is like, "You smell that?" And Fatima's like, mm-mm. He said, "Me either. Where's the food at?" Fatima said, "Oh, you forgot you were supposed to be taking me out to eat?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, my bad." So he said, "We'll figure something out. We'll figure something out. Since you don't want to get married and you don't want to cook, we'll figure something out." So she was like, "Wait a minute, I'll cook. I'll go ahead and cook, whatever." So he was like, "Oh, for real?" So she get in there and go do her thing for her man. And, them two are so crazy. So I noticed when Zach told Fatima that she threw him off when she started talking about his baby mamas. So is that confirmation that he is Karen's baby daddy, or was he talking just to be talking? So we do know we have test results for Heather, and he is supposed to be the baby daddy. But if those results are legit, when are we going to see a relationship or some kind of mention that Zach wants to see the little boy? Like, are we going to see some type of father-son thing, or is it just going to be, oh, pay child support and that's it? Is Fatima going to have to encourage him to try to go get the little boy and do things with him? Those are the kind of things that do go on in real life. So I'm curious to see how all that plays out, because Zach has yet to even mention the little boy. I don't even know if we know what the little boy name is. So we head back over there to Karen's house, and her and Aaron, they're sitting on the couch, and then they get a knock on the door. Aaron asked her, she said, "Is that your friends?" And I'm like, "Damn, I mean, can she see through the door, Aaron? Because she's sitting down on the sofa just like you. How she know?" But of course it's them. They just barge on in because y'all left the door unlocked. So they come on in, and they're like, "Oh, it's you." And he's being cordial, and they being shady. And of course, Danny don't care what she say out her mouth. She like, "I want to drink, smoke, and do all this without being judged." And Aaron like, "I wouldn't do none of that anyway." She was like, "Good." And he basically told him like, "Well, I don't think you should smoke in here. I mean, it won't be good for the baby." And they were like, "Oh yeah, you're right." So they pretty much brushed Aaron on out the door, and Andy gave him a thumbs up, and Danny gave him this old shady behind church hug. So the three of them sit down, and Karen is like, "Well, where's Sabrina at?" So Andy says she couldn't make it, and she's like, "Why?" So Andy was like, "Well, how you doing? How you feeling?" She rubbing all on the girl's stomach or whatever. And Karen looking at her crazy like, "I'm fine." So Danny says, "Are you sure you fine? You good?" And she was like, "Yeah, what's up?" So Danny says, well, with that being said, Sabrina is in jail. Clink, clink. Danny did not have time for all the hemming and hawing like Andy was trying to do. And Karen was like, "What?" Andy, she tries to explain to Karen why Sabrina is in jail about the whole Maurice thing and who he was dating and about the bank robbery and all of that. Karen immediately goes into the whole thing about, "Andy, you got to get her out. You got to get her out. How are you going to do it? Call your boss," this and that and the other. I'm like, here we go again, putting everything on Andy. The girl is doing the best she can. I mean, Andy, she's too busy trying to calm Karen down. Like, girl. So Karen was like, "Oh, don't call her mother." I'm like, okay, so that's like another time we're mentioning Sabrina's mom. Like, is she going to pop up or not? So Andy, she mentions that she has other contacts and that she's going to basically make Sabrina's case like a priority for her. And so Danny was like, "Okay, so you got that, right?" So she looks at Karen and was like, "So why are we here? You asked us to be here." So Karen goes into this thing like, "Oh, well, the circle's not complete because Sabrina's not here." And Danny is about over it. She's like, "Look, we are here. Like, girl, what is it? Like, we don't have time for your foolishness." So she ends up saying that she's going to the doctor and trying to do the ultrasound thing. And Danny looking like, "Girl, that's it?" And she was like, Andy was like, "I'm there." And she was like, "And I want you there too, Danny." And Danny was like, "You sure?" Like, cause I don't know what them two got going on. Like they not getting along for whatever reason. And but it was kind of like I said, Karen never seemed to really be on that page with Danny anyway. Like Danny is really closer to Sabrina, not really these two, because they always left Danny out and made her feel less than anyway. So child, that's why Danny like really don't give a damn. Really, like, you sure you want me there? You don't care what I say out my mouth? You think I'm gonna embarrass you type thing? Because you know Danny don't give a damn. So she was like, well, what if it's not Zach's baby? And she was like, well, I'm okay with that. So Andy is like, oh, are you serious? Like, that's good. So Karen goes into this whole thing about how her mom had her do the letter thing, and she feels like she's in a different space now, and she thinks she's kind of ready to move on. Just hearing Karen say she thinks it's time for her to move on is really a cause for celebration. Thank you, Jesus. So Andy gets a phone call, and it's Robin, and she tries to ignore the phone call. So Danny is like, excuse me, clapping her hands all in her face like, let me remind you, you need to be trying to answer the phone. You know, it's a thing like Sabrina, she's in jail. Like, answer that. So ding, 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 dingy ass Andy was like, oh yeah, you're right. So she goes outside to talk to him. So she goes outside to talk to Robin, and he's like, well, I want to talk business. She was like, okay, what's up? And he was like, all right, I lied. And she was like, well, what do you want? Why are you calling me? He said, well, I'll help your friend. So she was like, okay, so what are you going to do? He was like, I'll make some calls or whatever. So she said, well, I told you that the prosecutor is not budging. So I'm trying to figure out from the time they left, when she first met the prosecutor just now, when she went to go see Sabrina, when did she call Robin? Because she claimed she couldn't call Robin for that. So when did she call Robin to tell him that the prosecutor wasn't budging? But anyway, he said, well, I don't talk to employees. I talk to bosses. And he'll make some things happen or whatever. He just needs to make sure that didn't have anything to do with it, because it's looking pretty bad. She was like 100% she's innocent, you know. So he was like, look, I'm sorry again. And she's like, well, that's not enough. And he was like, well, what I got to do, you know, to get you to budge, you know, to get you to, you know, lighten up or whatever. And she's like, just help my friend, like with an attitude like she the shit. I'm like, girl, like he really don't have to do anything. And he was like, well, okay, so are you saying that's a start? And she was like, just help her. And then she was like, well, I got to go because my other line is beeping. Like, I don't know why she had to tell that part. So what I don't understand about Andy is why I get that Robin was totally disrespectful. He was rude, and I appreciate the fact that you're trying to stand your ground or whatever. I get all of that, and yeah, I get it. But in this particular time, when you know this man can help you get your friend out of jail, why you can't treat him the way you're treating Gary? Just like you said last week, he was trying to sue you, so you're trying to keep him calm and keep him close for those purposes or whatever. You don't have to sleep with Robin. Nobody's saying that you need to be sleeping with Robin. I know you know how to be around a man. I would hope you know how to be around somebody without having to sleep with him. I mean, you're trying to get her out of jail, so be nice enough to get that help and then kick his ass to the curb like you're doing. Like, nobody's saying don't stand your ground, but goddamn, when it comes to trying to get this help, because how else you going to get the help? You can't do this by yourself, so be nice enough to get the damn help, girl. So when she clicks over, it's Gary, and her damn face lights up like a Christmas tree. She is skinning and grinning from ear to ear. They show Gary, he's smiling and cheesing, and he's begging to come over. And he was like, oh, I'm just want to come over for a little while. And she was like, well, yeah, every time you say that, you end up staying overnight. So Charlie didn't even take long for him to be begging, because she was like, I'll be home in an hour. Just be naked in my bed, ready. And I'll I'll let the guy have you go in the house. So, of course, he's happy as he want to be. And I guess he'll be waiting on her when she get there. So we got Gary, Aaron, and Zach on the basketball court. Gary, he's getting ready to leave because we know he getting ready to go get naked in Andy's house. So he's dapping it up with Aaron. and the two of them are talking. So Gary tries to talk to Zach, and Zach was like, no, like, I'm not talking to you. Like, don't talk to me, all of that. So Gary, he leaves. Aaron gets ready to talk to Zach, and Zach tells him, look, before you even get started, I come here for peace. I'm not here for the stress. I don't have time for it. And, I don't want you on my team. And here comes Hayden out of nowhere talking about, and I damn sure don't want you on my team. So he's going back and forth, and then two of them are drawing back and forth, and he's trying to antagonize him, and I guess try to get him to hit him so he can go call the police or whatever. And he's bringing up Heather, and he's calling him weak and all that, and Zach is like, weak? Like, you sure one saying I was weak in that office. And he ends up calling Hayden Karen, and Aaron comes from behind, talks with Karen, what did you say about Karen? I'm like, Aaron, please go and sit your butt down, please. Zach looked at him like, oh my God, I can't take this. So the two of them, Aaron ends up getting in between Hayden and Zach tells him, look, don't put your hands on me, touch him, don't touch me. Hayden had the nerve to get in Aaron's face like, I don't even know you like that, bruh. Like, he gonna do something, like, go sit down. So Hayden, he leaves. So Aaron is trying to talk to Zach now, and he's like, look, I'm not your enemy. I just want us to be cool. He tries to bring the whole baby thing up, and Zach is like, look, like I told you in the beginning, I don't want any stress, dude. I don't want to talk about that. So what it boils down to is Zach realizes that Aaron is a nice guy. He knows he's a nice guy, and it's like he wants to hate him so bad, but deep down he really can't. And he acts just like Karen, because that's kind of the same thing Karen said about Fatima. Like, they do all of that, and for what? There's really no reason. And it really looks worse to me when it comes to Zach, because most men don't even act like that. They don't even allow the other guy to let them know it gets to them. Like, they brush it off a lot faster than what females do. Like, most of the females will have grudges than the guys do. So I don't know why they have Zach always buffing up and acting stupid and saying all this different little stuff or whatever. But you could tell with this particular scene here that Aaron is making a little leeway with him, the same way Fatima did with Karen a little bit. So he runs off, like, how just acting silly, running off because he don't want to hear what Aaron is saying. Aaron was like, let the love in. So Andy, she goes back in the house and she sits down and realizes that Danny done told Karen all her business. So Karen is questioning her about why she's still hunting Gary and all this and that. So Andy proceeds to say, well, since my business all out here in the streets, let me put you up on some tea. She tells about Jonah and Danny's whole situation, because Danny out here trying to have a hot girl summer and then got into some foolishness. So Karen is in disbelief. She over there like, what? Oh my God, she's doing all of that. And both of them are both back and forth hollering about checkmate this and checkmate that. And Karen is like, oh, this is why I don't need to be missing. And she just missing all the action and so much going on with all the girls. And child, basically, Karen asked Danny, like, were you trying to kill him? Were you going to kill him? Something she said about, were you trying to kill him? And she was like, well, my girl Fatima said that it would have been self-defense. So why did she say that? She's like, oh, Lord. So Andy and Karen, they trying to gather up their bags or whatever, talking about that she got to go meet Preston, and Andy like she got to go meet Gary. Well, she didn't say Gary, but Karen was like, what you said about your girl, that's your girl now. Oh, y'all besties now. She done got in her little feelings, and they were like, well, quiet as it's kept, she's a cool ass girl. She's cool as hell. And if it wasn't for her messing with Zach, she'll already be in the sister circle already. And Andy had to agree with that. And they looking at her like, Danny said, well, why you sitting so stiff and erect? Like, what, you mad? She's like, I'm not mad. Or whatever. And she gonna turn to Ann and Tom. So you better help Sabrina. Andy goes to drop Danny off at home. Danny could not get out that car fast enough without Andy pulling the hell off. Like, goddamn, can she at least get up to her door, Andy? She just had a traumatic experience. We don't even know that Preston is on the other side. You didn't roll your window down and say, hey, Preston, how you doing? You didn't say none of that. You at least should have waited till your friend got up to Preston anyway. You know, you didn't even attempt to see if it, look around to see if in it. Jonah could have been lurking in the dark somewhere. Like, who does that? Girl, that girl pulled off so fast that shit didn't even make no damn sense. I said, oh man, is Gary, I mean, he all of that like that? Damn. So Danny gets up to Preston and he's like, where's your car? And she said, oh, I let her drive. Never did say where her car was though. And so, you know, the two of them, they get to talking, and at first it's starting off saying the same old stuff they normally say with that same old struggle conversation, and we be like, oh Lord. But you know, I think Preston kind of stood his ground and, you know, just kind of stood up to her for a change and was like, you know, I know how to love a woman. I need to know how to love you. And, you know, she admitted she doesn't know what she wants. One day she wants this, one day she wants that. And, you know, just being indecisive about what she wants in a relationship. So Preston was basically like, you know, let's just, you know, we don't have to have all the choices all at one time. Let's just, you know, play things out and let things fall and happen as they happen. So the two of them end up agreeing or whatever, but they did have a nice little conversation, and Preston was like, can we please go in the house? So we see them, they finally end up going in the house. So Karen calls Pam to check on the shop and make sure everything is straight. And she's like, did you check on this? Did you check on that? Did you turn this off? Did you turn blah, blah, blah? And Pam was like, you know, I'm not a child. I know what I'm doing. I got this. And the dude in the back was like, I turned everything off. And Karen was like, who is that? Pam didn't answer. She was like, Karen said, you better not be having sex on my desk again. Pam said, girl, your desk is too uncomfortable. So she steady going on and on like, do I need to come up there? Are you sure? Do I need to come up there? She gonna tell her, answer your phone. She's like, girl, what are you talking about? We on the phone. Like, no, we FaceTime. And Pam said, I'm not doing that, girl. I'm going home, child. And they're like, don't make me call your mama. That's what I'm getting ready to do. So that's what got up off her back. She was like, oh, whatever. So they hang up, and when they hang up, she turned the lights off, and doggone Pam done left the doggone curling iron on anyway. When Karen first went on bed rest and Pam came over to her house and came in the bedroom and was getting the key or getting something from her, and she was like, I'm going to be calling you to check on you and all this and that. I said, well, they keep bringing the shop up as if something is going to happen to the shop. And now we see, because the thing is, Pam has been in the shop by herself a lot. We've seen several scenes where Pam had to lock up and do this and do that, and there were no issues. So I don't understand why all of a sudden we got to keep reiterating about checking on the shop and doing this and doing that. I mean, and another thing, Karen, where are your security systems? Where are your cameras? You can have cameras where you can check from your phone where you are. So if you really was that worried about it, you should have some kind of security system and cameras up anyway. Aaron comes back in. Of course, you know, Aaron then moved in. He already told everybody he was moving in. He came over there with his duffel bag, and all he did was left to go play basketball. So now he's back. So he sees her, and she's like, he's like, well, you going somewhere? She said, yeah, to the shop, because I don't trust Pam locking up. And he was like, it's fine, it's fine. She was like, no. He's like, look, I tell you what, let me give you a massage and all. Let's put these good old hands on you and all that. And if you feel like after I do all of that, that you still feel like you need to go, and then I'll go for you. She was like, well, you don't have the code. He was like, you can give me the code. Like, that's not a big issue. So basically, her intuition is correct this time, but still, the girl has locked up before, so that's all I'm saying. But her intuition is correct. But my thing is if something actually does happen to the shop, is she going to blame Pam, Or is she going to blame Aaron for not letting her go back to the shop when she clearly wanted to go back? Because you know she going to get mad real quick. So we'll see what happens with that. So Andy finally makes it home. She's all excited coming in, talking about Gary. So she sees him and she's like, you do what I say. And he was like, yeah, about that. And she was like, what? So he points over and she turns and looks. And we see Robin sitting his ass on the sofa. And the episode ends there. Do you guys think Robin was on the sofa asleep? Because he looked like he wasn't really even moving or responding when Andy turned his way. And also, will they save the shop? Will somebody make it in time to turn the curling iron off? Or will somebody go in there and get cased up in the fire? It'll be interesting. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.